Afternoon. When I say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, I know that I'm addressing all of you. So yes, please put it in the chat. And let me officially welcome you to Live with Marcy and Amy, the Heart-Centered Woman. Amy and I are so excited to be with you today. As you've heard before, maybe, or if you're new to our show, this is actually our fourth year of creating incredible transformational programming for you. Every month, Amy and I spend a lot of time really going deep into our hearts to tune into what the pulse is requesting of us. And I can't really explain that any other way other than to let you know that we are always intuitively led to what direction our shows need to go in. And so today we are here to discuss when fathers fail, how to turn abandonment into alignment, rebuild self-trust, and become fiercely empowered. And so with that, I would like to just share a quote with you that I thought really spoke to the essence of our show today. Actually, I have two little quotes for you. One is, when loneliness is a constant state of being, it harkens back to a childhood wherein neglect and abandonment were the landscape of life. That was from Alexandra, I can't pronounce this, Kate Hawkes. She wrote a book called The Mirror of Intimacy. And then this other tiny little quote really touched me. And it comes from a child's book. And the book is Freak the Mighty. You might have heard of this series. It's by Rodman Philbrick. And here's the quote. "That stuff about my father was true," Freak says, studying his fingernails and acting really cool again. "I know he ran away because of me." So we're talking about two aspects of abandonment and how we interpret this experience as children. And of course, we're going to be talking about how we continue to experience it as adults. But first, Amy, I want to, as always, just say how happy I am to be here with you, how special you are to me, and that I know you have so much to share today. And so let's just get into it. Can you first just tell everybody about you and the work that you do, please?
Hello, welcome everybody. Live with Marcy and Amy is every third Thursday in the month. And with every show, there's a workshop that's available after every show for you guys to dive in deeper, because we really want to bring these subjects to the forefront and then go deeper with them. I'm Amy Shade. I am a women's empowerment coach. I am the creator of the Radical Embodiment Method. And this is a big, this particular issue of the father wound and how we all experience this as women. I really support women in healing that father wound and really looking at how it affects our life. Because as you know, if you're on this call, if you're on this show, you know that you healing your wounds matter. I mean, it matters to really heal and to go in and to examine and to release and to really move on from our past and what we were given as children, right? And none of it was our fault. We were given certain parents that we had no choice of. So, well, spiritual choice, but that's
Scratch that.
Scratch that. But we get to learn from our parents and grow and become more empowered with ourselves. And that's what Marcy and I are really into, of being empowered and really moving fiercely through life and have it, beautifully through life. And Marcy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks so much, Aim. So I'm Marcy Newman. I'm known as the Heart Shift Coach. And it's based on over 50 years of experience with helping people to heal their hearts on many, many different levels. And back, oh, probably about 25 years ago, I started to really recognize that healing the heart is the key. It's the key to physical healing, emotional healing, mental healing, psychological healing, and of course, healing the spiritual relationship that we have with our higher self. It opens up all the doors so that we have access to the most incredibly empowered aspects of self, and it allows us to live life very differently as the creators actually that we were meant to be and we came here to be. So having said that, my focus is on self-love. Self-love, from my perspective, is that divine journey of self-actualization as a divine creator. And so self-love, I know, is, being tossed around a lot these days. And I'm actually very happy about that. But I also recognize that there's a lot of confusion. And so when I'm working with my clients, the first thing that I do is help them to discern the energy of self-love, as opposed to the energy of the ego, which is always trying to lead us astray. And so you'll hear a lot of my philosophy today, how I approach things, and of course, what I have found to be powerful healing tools. And as Amy said, we are offering a very powerful transformational workshop. And what's the date of that workshop, Amy? Do you know offhand?
30th.
The 30th. And we hope that you'll all attend because we'll be not only addressing abandonment and father issues, but how to identify as one of the most important aspects of that so that we can heal and we know what it is that we are healing. So, having said all that, welcome everyone. So happy that you're here. And for those of you who are watching or listening to the replay, thank you so much for your support. We love hearing from you and knowing how we are touching and helping you to create transformation in your own lives. So, thanks so much for that. So with that, Ames, I'm just going to dive right in and ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, I know you have an awful lot to share. And so I'd like to ask you if you could start with sharing your own story. How did your father's failure to show up impact your sense of self-worth growing up? And what was a pivotal moment that helped you to heal your father wound?
Yes, thank you. Um, you know, here we all have our own father story. We all have our own ways that we felt abandoned by our father. Some have been physically abandoned from with our father, where they leave the home, right? They leave the home and they're not there. My father was in the house with us, but did not speak to us. He never spoke to us as children. And not only that, but because I was a dancer, artist, more free person, he did not like that. So he always was trying to talk me out of my dancing, talk me out of suppressing who I was. Emotions were not allowed, and he had three girls. So, it's interesting because this could have been his lesson, right? With having three girls as children. Instead, he chose to shut us down and really not allow us to be our emotional self, right? So if we were crying, he'd say, "Stop crying. That's just a waste of time." Right? So my feelings, my emotions were often shamed and shut down, and I wasn't allowed to have these natural emotions that we all have. And it's interesting because then what happened was I became shut down emotionally and passive aggressive and emotionally shut down. And as an artist, and if you're an artist out there, right, when you have, to me, it's a higher calling, when I had this great, I was very good at what I did, right? And I would be in my home and it was shamed. It was told it was a waste of time. And I would go out into the world and people would be like, oh my God, Amy, you're such a beautiful dancer, right? And it was such a weird place to be. Outside of your home, you are revered. Inside of your home, you are shamed and told your gift is not worth anything. And so many of us artists go through this where we're great at photography or painting, drawing, dancing, and we were told it was a waste of time. And so I held on to this as an artist my whole life until I was in my 30s. I got married. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God. Because of course, you marry your father, right? When you don't when you don't heal your wounds, right? And so I was in this marriage going, I sound like my mother. I'm acting like my mom. What is going on here? And I realized that, I had so much disdain for him, so much. He's the reason why I'm not successful. He totally ruined my career, my ability to perform professionally. He was the one, I just couldn't stand him. I was like so angry with him. And it went into my marriage, right? And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm acting like my mom in this marriage. I'm having the same feelings I was having towards my father, towards my husband. So then I went into my meditation group, which I often talk about, which has changed my trajectory to this day. And my mentor in that group said such a powerful thing to me. She said, Amy, you know, if your whole family's in a room with him, your whole family's in the room with him, why is he the only one allowed to be happy? And I was like, yeah. I mean, actually, he's the cause of everyone's unhappiness, yet he's the most happy person. And then why does he get that and not me? Not me, you know? And that was a really poignant moment for me because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to waste my life being angry at someone who I can't change. I'm not going to put my life on hold for someone who doesn't care if I'm happy or not. I'm not going to put my life on hold on someone who's not invested in me. And that to me was like a moment of, because ultimately, as an artist and dancer, you're always reflecting on yourself. And I'm a selfish person. I'm not allowed, I'm very selfish about certain things. So I was like, whoa, why am I gonna do that? Like I'm like this rebel, right? Like, yeah, actually, why would I do that? And so today, as we dive deeper into this is, a question that we all get to ask ourselves is like, why does he get to like be happy and not me? And I want you to really start reflecting on that this week and be like, what am I actually giving up because uh, of this father wound that I'm carrying? So we'll go more into what's next, but let's do this. Let me ask Marcy, what are some of the emotional common thread effects or symptoms in most cases of abandonment?
Thanks so much for that, Amy. And you notice we're starting with the emotion because regardless of whether or not your father physically left your home, and abandoned you in terms of not providing physical care, the emotional impact of that far outweighs anything else. And you'll notice a lot of people, who grew up in homes where the father physically abandoned them, they have these incredible survival skills, right? And they're able to physically take care of themselves on levels perhaps that, we don't have those skills. But when it comes to the emotional impact, every single one of us has it. if we have come from homes where we were emotionally neglected. Now, I have to tell you that, 8 out of 10 people that I would have this conversation with could identify with some of these symptoms. So let's talk about it. Um, let's talk about the fact that very often you have this intense fear of being abandoned. If we look at that energetically, it makes perfect sense. Energy is always seeking out other energy just like itself. And it finds it each and every time. So it will put you in positions where either you will be abandoned emotionally again, or you will be abandoning emotionally because the energy must be fed. This also comes out in the fear of being rejected. We have this response where I'm going to reject you before you reject me. So, as you can imagine, this has an incredible impact on the ability to have an intimate relationship, even a committed relationship, because the commitment really is to the energy exchange. And so when this energy is out searching for other energy, just like itself, it causes tremendous amounts of anxiety. And so you may see people who have, oh, I've got God bumps. You may see people who have had, extreme emotional abandonment as children, as very anxious people, worrying about all kinds of things, but the number one worry will be their relationships because they're caught in this damned if I do, damned if I don't situation. And so what happens then, because we are always the source of everything that we experience, we'll have issues trusting others. How can you trust others if you're constantly fearing that they will abandon you or reject you? And you're putting yourself in positions where you make sure that happens. So this distrust of self comes up. So you have insecurity, right? That's constantly being fed, low self-esteem, emotional instability. You can't find your ground. You just can't find your ground. And it makes no sense to you because if you have an awareness of this in particular, you're probably doing all these incredible, grounding processes, and you want to feel that sense of connectedness, and yet it continues to evade you. And so you might see lots of mood swings and feelings of loneliness and isolation, I think are also at the basis of this issue that causes tremendous amount of pain. And I don't know about you, but I've spoken before in my marriage. My marriage, oh my gosh, is just this wonderful petri dish, right? Of all these things that I experienced and have, evolved, learned from. But one of them was I remember telling people how I used to feel so lonely in my marriage. Now, here I was married, I had 4 kids, my house was bedlam, and yet I would feel lonely. And I know that this came from my own emotional abandonment as a child. And so we start to isolate ourselves. And again, we're going now back into that energy of rejection. We reject ourselves before others can reject us. And then, of course, it's the difficulty in being able to express emotions. If you haven't had your emotional needs met, or at least helped you to identify them, you'll have a very difficult time in expressing those emotions, but also accepting those emotions. Amy and I talk all the time about this radical acceptance of self. It has to take place. And so our emotions, of course, tell us so much about ourselves, and they require radical acceptance. So thanks so much for that, Aim. I'd like to go on because, again, we have so much to share. And just to repeat myself, sorry, but I've got to emphasize our workshop coming up on the 30th. We go in so deeply. We have 90 minutes with you, and it's live. You have full access to us. I can't emphasize enough how powerful these are. So, all right, Ames, here we go. How does resentment keep women stuck in the past? And what happens when we finally release it?
Thank you for that. Yes, all of those points that you brought up. Um, yeah, when you don't feel safe in your home with the very person who is there to protect you, right? I mean, that father figure is that figure that you look up to for help, and they pick you up and they help you, right? And when you don't have that, it's really all of the things you said is just so, if we really reflect on them, it's like, oh yeah, every time I looked at my father crying, expressing an emotion, he told me to stop. There was no comfort, there was no safety. So then we don't even know how to identify what we need oftentimes, because we shut down from expressing our need. And then of course we become hyper vigilant on hyper independent, which is an 80s thing too, fried up in a pan, whatever. That song. Where we're told we have to be hyper dependent, we have to do everything. Yeah, so resentment, oh gosh, what a heavy load. Resentment is so heavy, and it's heavy on the heart, and it's something that resides in us. It resides in our body, and when we tell stories, resentment is expressed in the story, and it's something that is so accessible to us. This resentment, because until we heal our father wound and come to terms with certain things that we'll talk about later on and in the workshop, that this resentment is so available to us. And that's a sign. That's a beautiful sign of saying, this resentment is like that. I can grab it, I can own it. And like, once I start thinking about something, the resentment comes up, and it's like a heavy energy, and it's an ugly energy. And so if that is coming up for you, that is something to pay attention to, because what we want to do ultimately is have that radical acceptance and not the resentment. Okay. The resentment is this energy that is connected to your past. It's an energy that's connected to something that had happened already. And so if you are really living it, which I was living it, I was very angry, and that made me very volatile. Look, you didn't want to get in a verbal fight with me because I will win. Okay. And I was resentful about many things, and I could bring that resentment up and express it out. So if you are very resentful, this is your opportunity to really like examine that and let it go. And I'm like a prime example of letting it go. Like, I have no resentment left in me, because I understand that resentment, I went through the process of releasing this wound, that it's not about he owed me anything, which we're going to talk about later, but actually he didn't owe me anything. It's just this belief that he owed me something, because he's my father. But just because you're a father doesn't mean you are good at it, or that you're a good person, or that you even care, right? Or so the resentment holds us as women, holds us in this cage, and it is a cage. It is such a heavy energy. So think about like, oh, how resentful am I? And am I holding on to this resentment? And I would notice it through my storytelling, right? Talking to people, and he's the blame, he's the blame, he's the blame. And so it's good to look at it, because when you release it, your mindset, who you are, your heart opens up. You're able to really start accepting things as is, and having understanding for the circumstances that are in front of you. And you're going to understand that resentment is pure poison to your nervous system, to your mind, to your heart. And you know, I think we should talk about this also, make this a really poignant thing in the workshop, this resentment point, because it will
I agree with you, Aim. I
it
think
will
I'm
really do
making
a
a note.
number,
Yeah.
really do a
We're
number
going
on
to
us.
dive in deep.
Yeah. um I'm going to ask you, Marcy, what are
Sure.
some of the most challenging behavioral effects of abandonment when your father figure abandons, and how are they often displayed?
Yeah. So a lot of these people may consider to just be normal. Okay. And start to expand your consciousness so that you can recognize that this is not normal under normal circumstances, meaning, had you received the emotional nurturing that you required, you would not be experiencing these. Okay. Things like being clingy, being codependent in relationships. Anybody here have codependent relationships? Yeah, we all have in the past. Jealousy, possessiveness, avoidance of intimacy, fear of commitment, sabotaging relationships, constantly pushing others away, and it goes back to rejecting others before they reject you. Difficulty, of course, maintaining healthy relationships. And anybody here express any separation anxiety? When that person is out of sight, you start to fabricate all kinds of different stories. Panic attacks. Anybody here ever have panic attacks? I did. And I was in such a state of perfectionism, which is a huge symptom of abandonment, that I wouldn't even allow myself to have panic attacks during the day. I had to have mine at night so that they were not full on in front of other people. And difficulty coping with loss or separation, taking everything personally. But getting back to that perfectionism, what happens is that the child takes on this belief that they have been abandoned, again, whether this is physical or whether this is emotional or psychological, that it's their fault. They are the reason their father ran away. They are the reason that no one comes to their emotional aid. They take it in as something being wrong with them. And so perfectionism then becomes the mechanism through which they believe that they can earn that love, earn that attention, earn those crumbs that they're so accustomed to living in. So it becomes so debilitating that often it's not even recognized, just, sort of brushed off as, oh, that's just the way I am. That's just the way things are. Well, no, no, that is a symptom of the pain and suffering that has been brought on by these abandonment issues. So we need to accept this so that we can work with it. So, Amy, let's see. You talk about challenging the father role. What does that mean, and why does it matter in healing?
Yes, I want to piggyback on all that you're saying. I always say we as women need to create a healthy relationship with our emotions. We need to start cultivating our emotions and being okay with them because we've been shamed for our emotions. Um, Oftentimes by our father, we've been rejected in an emotional state. So basically, we're in an emotional state and we're being rejected as it's happening. And it's such an, you know, interruptness of our healthy emotions coming out. And so we as women, we need to really cultivate this healthy relationship with our emotions. Um, and perfectionism also is a big one for us, and it's sneaky. We did a show on that, what, 2 shows ago? It was so sneaky, people didn't really sign up for the show that much. But it's so sneaky, this perfectionism. So, really, I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for myself. I'm a huge advocate for myself. I have challenged the father role in my life and I have let it go. I have given up all expectations around the father role. Now, many people fight against that because they're in this neediness or they're in resentment where someone needs to pay. They're in this connection of this relationship that they never achieved, they never got. Now, and then they're fighting for something that's oftentimes not possible. And, you know, when I would teach dance, this is a big thing for me. Like when I would teach dance and I would see these fathers coming up to their daughters after class, pick them up, so excited, so happy, so warm and loving towards their daughter. Oh my God, tears would be coming in my eyes. I would be like, I never got that as a dancer. I never got that, right? It was so painful. So I had to really let go of that role my father was supposed to do, who he was supposed to be. And when we challenge the father role in our life, what happens is we become free. We become free. We become responsible for our own life and we let go of these fairy tale things that a father is supposed to do in that father role. And then it's interesting because we begin to, well, I'll talk about that next. But so I was in so much pain at age, 32, 33, teaching these little 3 year olds and having that physical emotional response as I saw that connection between father and daughter. And I thought to myself, Amy, you've got to move past this somehow, right? And and I began challenging the role of the father. I began challenging it because I needed to be free. I needed to be free. I needed to stand up for myself because my father will never do it. And so this is a beautiful step that everyone can start taking, challenging that role. Marcy, what is the abandonment journey about, and why is it the number one common thread that we all seem to share? Is
Mm.
there any chance that abandonment experiences are part of our spiritual journey?
So, yes. Yes. I'm a firm believer that everything is always happening in our favor. This is so hard for us to comprehend and to accept. And yet, when we allow it to take us through our own healing journey, what we're really doing is aligning with, we might call it our God self. We get to see things through the eyes of God rather than through the eyes of man. So, as a child, first I want to say that every single one of us starts to develop these abandonment issues the first time you're crying and the phone rings and your mother answers the phone, or your diaper is wet, or you are in need of something and your mother or father, are not right there available to give it to you. That's actually where the abandonment issue begins. The other thing is, I want everyone to remember, and again, this is my belief. So I believe that we come from oneness. We come from, when we're in spirit, before we embody and incarnate, we come from oneness. It's where all of our needs actually are non-existent, right? Everything is in that oneness. So everything that we need has already been taken care of. And to then come into this body, right, which is foreign, where we are shrunken down, and trying to relearn what we need to have control over, power over our hands, our feet, everything, right? We're completely dependent on others. It's natural that we would have some abandonment issues that would begin to percolate, and we would start to wonder, what did I do? Am I being punished? Am I not lovable? Why am I being tortured like this? Why don't they love me? Why don't they love me enough to? And then that list just gets longer and longer and longer. But again, because in my heart, I'm so clear about why I'm here, I look at every single experience and ask that question, how is this working in my favor? I know that those things that are left unhealed um, leave me out of alignment with my ability to connect with my heart, with my higher knowingness. And from that place, I continue to be that wounded person out in the world. And that wounded person, of course, is going to project all of that onto all those that surround us. It's just natural. This is what happens. And so, coming from this place where we can remember that we are spiritual beings, it means that these experiences, and Amy alluded to this in the beginning of the show, are the result of us having chosen our parents, chosen our siblings, chosen our family, chosen our circumstances, all for the purpose of growing as a more expansive expression of the God within us. The more we then have access to those eyes, those lenses. And so, this, from my perspective, which of course I didn't always have, and, I hope my kids can forgive me for any times that I have, neglected them emotionally. I'm certain there were many. I'm finding that as I evolve into myself, not into anything else, but who I truly am, I'm coming to this place of understanding that each and every experience of this nature is truly an invitation. It's an invitation for me to raise my vibrational frequency so I can see things differently. It's an invitation for me to let go of the facade, the illusion of separation, and really truly accept that, oh yeah, if I can get past this, if I can let that go, if I can raise my sights, I don't have to live in the woundedness anymore. And so we start to take on this understanding that as spiritual beings, we are meant to have great compassion for our humanness, gratitude for our experiences, and of course, liberation, freedom. for when we get past them. And so, with that, Ames, I'd like to ask you, what is the most powerful and yet difficult tool that we can use to heal our father wounds? And again, we'll go deeper into this in our workshop. So,
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what you said because, I grew up atheist, so there was no spirituality. And that atheism is so perfection driven, and it's like if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you, right? And the spiritual aspect is when I became got into my spirituality, like I understood I was a spiritual being. I As a spiritual being, I'm actually not attached to anyone and yet attached to everything. And so as a spiritual being, I had more options and choices in my life. And as a spiritual being, there's no perfection, there's only love. And as a spiritual being, that love is transformational, right? It's not conditional. As a perfectionist, like human atheist, love is conditional. I oftentimes, I love you, and therefore this and this and this and this needs to happen. Instead of I love you in the form of love, I just love you, right? And me becoming spiritual in my life and accepting that there was something higher than myself. There's something above me that is helping me learn these lessons was such, it's just like a relief, such a relief, because I was so hard on myself because of my father wound. I was so hard on myself with the perfection and the judgment of others, and this linear talk I used to do all the time, and this this loneliness that I had, and I, excuse me, sorry. Marcy and I always have the same cough on the show. But anyways, so interesting enough, through this experience of getting into my spirituality in 2001, right? When I was going through my divorce, the whole thing, going through my marriage, and then subsequently my divorce. Someone coming to me and saying, empathy is the way to really set yourself free. And I was like, wait, you want me to empathize with this guy? I can't do that right now. There's no empathy. Because I'm in resentment. He did this, 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 and this. You want me to empathize with him? What? Right? And I had a visceral reaction to this suggestion. Right? And I realized that that's because I had to do a lot of a lot of letting go of the story about my father that has kept me from what I really wanted in life, right? And this is hard truth where you're like, it's actually me doing the damage to myself, right? So when you use empathy as a way to really see this and let go of this father role, that's the goal. You got to let go of this belief around the father role and look at that person as just a person, and to try to find some kind of empathy around their circumstances of them growing up and what they went through. And when I did that exercise of empathy with my father, I realized that his own father used to, because my dad was not a physical guy, he's a brain guy. His own father, my grandfather, used to shame him for not being a physical person, for not being athletic, for not being on the football team, for not. So, and here I am, this very physical person in my father's life. And the shame and the guilt and all of those feelings, I'm the person that my grandfather would love to have as a as a son, right? Because I'm physical. So finding empathy in people's circumstances and understanding that they are just people too. And if you have a visceral reaction to empathy around your father, this is another beautiful time to examine that. Because empathy is a powerful tool in letting go of expectations, letting go of anger, and bringing understanding into this process of healing your father wound. So, Marcy, I see you put the workshop link on there. And I'm going to ask you, oh, you have 4 questions. I have 5. Is it possible for true healing of abandonment issues to occur? What needs to take place first? Oh, yeah.
Actually, before I answer that,
Yeah.
I would like to just talk about the workshop. I did put the link in, and just to review some of what we're going to cover. By the way, again, this is 90 minutes, really with Amy and I in this very safe container.
Right.
We're going to talk about, as we said, we're going to talk about resentment and how to identify that, but we're going to talk about how to recognize when your father issues are in control instead of your innate wisdom. We're going to identify when your inner child is reacting out of fear and learn how to respond with love and self-love instead. We're going to talk about soothing and comforting the part of you that still fears the abandonment and how to let go of that energy, because as we talked about earlier, that energy can only do one thing: find other energy just like itself, and it'll come back looping over and over and over again. So let us help you to break that loop. And then, of course, how to step forward with greater awareness and commitment to heal, and give you the tools so that you can stay in that place of personal empowerment. The cost of the workshop is $47, but what you get in bonuses takes it up to at least $400. So you're going to be given the Beyond the Father Wound online course and the forgiveness course. Amy's course is Beyond the Father Wound. Mine is the forgiveness course. And again, it's over $400 worth of really wonderful transformational material for you to do on your own, in your own time, and still have this time with Amy and I where we can address everything one-on-one with you. It's really very powerful. So with
And
that,
our workshops are you are experiencing it. It's not a PDF. You are going through
exactly,
the exercises with us.
that's right.
Yeah.
So having said that, Amy, can you just repeat that question for me, please?
Yes. Is it possible for true healing of abandonment issues to occur? What needs to take place first?
Yeah. The answer to that is yes. It is absolutely possible. I think Amy and I are both really shining examples of having healed much of our abandonment issues. I know so many other people who have as well, coming from all walks of life, no matter what the experience was. And the reason I believe this is, as I said, I do believe that this is a spiritual journey. And it's a journey also, particularly for women, in order for us to become heart-centered and be what the world needs us to be right now. We must do this work. There are no coincidences about how and when things come up. And you'll see that if you take a look at the shows that are scheduled for us every single month. They follow a pattern that we don't even recognize until, that 2020 hindsight will say, oh my gosh, look what we were doing. So, number one, yes, yes, yes. Not only can it be healed, but it can be transformed and then actually transcended. Transcended means that that energy is now available for you to create what you want to experience instead. And what would that be? It would be as an emotionally stable, loving, expansive, expressive version of yourself as love, love itself. And so that is what is being offered to us, I think, with every experience that comes up and waves its hand and says, pick me, please, heal me, right? Let me go. And then the other thing is that I think the first thing that has to happen is, even if you can embrace that concept like 1%, 2%, 10%, that maybe this is one of the most important parts of my journey in self-actualizing, in coming to myself as the powerful being that I'm meant to be. If you can accept that, the moment that you do, you will start to experience life empowered. And I want you to notice the difference in the wording that Amy and I use. It's not empowered, it's empowered, connected to source, connected to that love, connected to that inner guidance, connected to your higher self. And so, first step, will you accept? Do you have the willingness to accept that you are this divine being and that you're simply being called to kind of come home to yourself? And then will you be committed? Will you take the steps that are necessary? This is not a, flip of the switch or, snapping of your fingers. Join us for the workshop. And that may just be a beginning for you. You may need to go further and further, but I'll tell you, you've never had 90 minutes so jam-packed, full of opportunity for you than to be in a workshop with Amy and I. Because if you think we share a lot in our shows, you should see what happens when we're in those intimate gatherings and you're asking us questions, which is one of our greatest joys. So with that, let's see, we have a few minutes left. Amy, I want to come to you and ask you, you talk about abandonment shifting into alignment. Can you break that down a bit? And this is something I'm going to add to our workshop. Mm-hmm. What does it look like when you get to the other side of that alignment? Yes. Thank you.
Man, that abandonment, anxiety, the abandonment, always uncertain. The abandonment is, I can't do it by myself. The abandonment is looking for partners that are emotionally unavailable. The abandonment is relationships that drain you, the people pleasing, the perfection, the loneliness. It's like you're teetering in life. You're teetering. You're like, oftentimes you're just flowing with whatever's in front of you. There's no sense of safety in your voice, in your choices. There's no sense of grounding and safety in, I'm going to actually use my voice and ask for what I want. Because oftentimes we don't express our needs to people because we think we're going to be rejected, and we usually are, because we pick partners who are connected to that father wound. So God, it's like you become, the alignment is that you are grounded in your knowing. You are no longer looking for someone to save you. You're no longer looking for someone to validate how you feel. You are in healthy relationship with your emotions. You are tuned in to your body and the wisdom that it gives you. You are reflecting with self and not looking outward for opinions. You are saying, what is good for me at this moment? What do I really want? And you're able to tune into self because you have self-trust. You trust yourself. There's a responsibility. You understand the responsibility for your life is you. You understand that this is your choice to have a life that you're proud of, that you want, that you make choices. Not that it's going to be perfect or easy. That's not what we're looking for. But you are carrying yourself in your own life. You are a spiritual being and you are aligned to your values. You are aligned to your voice. You are aligned to your mission. And so coming from that first place to this place, it's like a world of difference. I mean, we always say like this type of transformation is very hard to describe because we are in our own abandonment. We are in our own pain. We're in this thing that I was in it for 32 years, this thing, until I started taking the journey of my spiritual journey. But so we're in it and we think there's no other options. And it's kind of hard to like, for us to make you feel that way. But it's like, I'm giving you all the list of things that change, the things that change. Even if you can't relate to them at this moment, just know that they are an option for you. They are waiting for you. Just know that. Marcy, I think yes.
We're about at our time, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in for a moment because something you said, Amy, really touched me, and that is this was, I've forgotten where we were in our programming, but about how insidious these symptoms are. They are in disguise, okay? We don't recognize them. I mean, I've had a pretty aware consciousness, I think, definitely for the past, 50 some years that I've been in this field of helping people to heal their hearts. And still with me, I'm recognizing how these issues molded certain patterns in my own life and how absolutely essential it is that we identify those patterns from my perspective. And I thought, it was so easy at one point to just say, oh, okay, I get it. I see it. No, 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 no. We're talking energy. We are energy beings. The only way to address this is energetically. And so that's a lot of what Amy and I do in our workshop. And let's face it, energy is our first language. It's the one way where we can truly heal and come back into alignment, knowing ourselves energetically and knowing what it is that we need to do, what we need to let go of, and then energetically where we want to be. So please join us. It's going to be a powerful, powerful program. And, it's so funny, but Amy had mentioned our show on perfectionism. We just looked at each other and sort of laughed because the show was so powerful. Like
Yeah.
even Amy and I were experiencing the shifts. We felt it, we saw it. And this is what happens when we come together. So I think we actually have that show on perfectionism that we're going to be using as a bonus soon too.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Come back, please. Third Thursday of every single month. Every single program, we follow up with a workshop to give you the opportunity to dive in deeply within yourself.
Mm.
So much love to you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
Can't
everyone.
wait to have you in our workshop. Can't
Yeah.
wait to have you at the next show.
Julie, I am
And
great that you signed up for the workshop.
yeah,
We're
thank
looking forward
you.
to having you there. Yes.
And thank you so much, Eileen, for letting us know that you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you to
Linda.
Gina.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, if we've touched you in any way, if there was an aha moment that you experienced,
Yeah.
please put it in the chat for all of us to enjoy and to let Amy and I know that you appreciate what we're doing here. Like I said, we've been doing this for 4 years. We're so dedicated to you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And hope to see you on the workshop. And we will see you next month. Next month we do we have our theme yet? I don't think so. Not yet.
Well, it's abandonment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. The stealthy quality of abandonment.
that's
Yes.
right.
Gosh.
That's right, Eileen.
Yeah.
That's right. You're so welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bina, you're so welcome.
All right. So
All
that's our
right.
show. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
We'll see you soon.